Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Expert Exchange Series event on building your career in industrial automation. Today, we're fortunate to have VP of Kelly Engineering, Mark Saltrelli, with us. Mark has extensive experience placing top talent in the industrial automation space, and he's here to answer your burning questions and share his valuable expert insights. Mark, welcome.
Well, thank you, Patrice and LinkedIn for having me. I'm excited to share my knowledge and help you navigate your career path in this overwhelming but very cool and very dynamic field.
All right, great. Well, let's jump on in. Mark, we know that industrial automation is taking off at an astronomical rate, but where are the jobs? Are there specific regions or industries that are experiencing higher demand?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one, automation is booming across the board, across, globally, but some sectors like automotive, food and beverage, supply chain logistics, aerospace and pharmaceuticals definitely are leading the way. Jobs are plentiful. We'll be talking about what type of jobs those are, or what, if you're in a certain skill set now, how you can maybe get into this field or get more, more skilled into the field. But jobs are definitely plentiful in the manufacturing hubs, definitely that have a strong focus in technology and innovation. So when you think of technology and innovation, that's San Jose, Sunnyvale, Irvine, Santa Clara, San Fran, anything that's San pretty much in the state of California, definitely is the heart of high-tech innovation and development. But they have such a robust understanding of robotics and automation technologies. When it comes to biotechnology, medical device, that area definitely leads the way. But then you have your homegrown, automotive sectors, in Michigan, Dearborn and Detroit and Warren, with the automotive sector up there, that region definitely has a substantial demand for engineers, definitely skilled in automation and advanced manufacturing technologies. Then you also have down south, in the Houston, Sugar Land, Austin, and even Dallas area, mainly known for its oil and gas industry. Now that there's been such a focus on industrial automation, it's now looking at being more efficient in oil and gas in that energy sector and being more safe. Safe is such a huge aspect in the oil and gas industry that now they're taking the opportunities to find industrial automation technologies or processes to make it even safer.
All right, it looks like we lost Mark there for a second, but I can jump in. He's been coaching me a little bit on the industrial automation space here. So as he was mentioning, the Houston Woodlands Sugarland area is huge for oil and gas. So there's a lot of improvements that can be made for efficiency, safety, and energy production there. And Austin also has that automotive and semiconductor space as well, where there's some room for growth. Some other areas that I think are experiencing a lot of growth in this area are Chicago and the Naperville, Elgin, Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, those Midwest states, where you'll find lots of industrial and manufacturing, tons of engineering room for innovation there within various sectors, including like food processing, manufacturing, and logistics. And then also when you get into another high tech area, the Boston, Cambridge, and Newton areas in Massachusetts and New Hampshire, those have a huge hub for technological research and development, and especially in that robotic area. So it has a huge demand for automation engineering professionals as well. In addition to that, we're seeing increased demand in other locations such as Ohio, Tennessee, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania, and mainly in the major hubs of those states as well. So the good news for everyone on this call is that Kelly Engineering has a strong footprint in all of those major hubs from both a talent and a customer engagement standpoint. So we partner with companies and talent in those areas to kind of put them to work in industrial automation. And while we wait for Mark to come back on, I wanted to drop a note that please, if you have any questions throughout this LinkedIn Live event, drop them in the chat because we will have a live Q&A at the end where he will be answering questions. Next, we wanted to touch on some of the transferable skills. So, when we look at some of the most sought after skills for industrial automation professionals, there are tons of jobs out there. There's tons of people hiring, but a lot of people, there's a big skills gap. And so, where are the jobs that are easily transferable into the space? How can you get into there if you're not quite in industrial automation yet? When you look at those skills, some of the things that are most important are strong technical knowledge, of course, including understanding of the PLCs, the SCADA systems, robotics, failure analysis, industrial networking, and specific automation hardware and software. But that being said, of course, skills are important, but don't underestimate the importance of soft skills. Things like communication, problem solving, critical thinking, and teamwork are vital for collaborating with engineers, technicians, and other stakeholders, especially in such a high tech and fast moving area that's continually developing. When it comes to jobs that typically work within this space or are easily transferable, so if you're looking to get into industrial automation, some of the roles that really transition well are mechanical and electrical engineers. Oh, hey, Mark. I was just covering for you a little bit, but we're actually at the perfect spot for you to jump back in here. I was just discussing some of the jobs that were most transferable. So I was just getting into mechanical and electrical engineers. So it's a perfect opportunity to pass it back off to you.
Absolutely. It's we need automation so when the internet goes down, it can find other ways to troubleshoot and still not lose connection. So
there you go.
If you got something that can help with that, I'm definitely listening and interested.
Yes.
My apologies. But yeah, when it comes to transferable skills, there's a lot of jobs right now that definitely fit in the industrial automation space. But you got your core engineers like mechanical and electrical. These expertise, in the machinery and mechanical system aspects are crucial for designing and implementing, mechanical components, for the automation systems. And obviously the electrical side is huge on the power supplies and circuit systems and all those things. To move the mechanical parts, right, we need to have, and ensure the electrical engineers are doing everything they can to ensure the powers are going in there on all those things. But then you have, your control systems engineers that they specifically specialize in designing and optimizing of those control strategies. They're huge key players. And then kind of going back what I mentioned in Boston, robotics and mechatronics, I mean, they're the heart of automation, right? When you think of, automation arms and things like that, a lot of where that started was towards robotics, right? These engineers are definitely the forefront of the automation technology. And then you have, your process improvement folks, like industrial and process engineers, right? In the world of engineering, it's always important to find ways to do things better, whether it's new processes, streamlining, manufacturing. So these people and these folks play such a huge role to see, okay, we've done the automation. What else can we do with it to make it more efficient for us and our company and our customers? And then you have the beautiful world of technicians, right? Yeah. You have the electronics, the mechanical, the maintenance, the automation technicians, right? These folks are the ones that are not only testing and maintaining, whether the mechanical components, the PLCs, whatever the case may be. These technicians are also the heart of making sure things are running smoothly, but also can catch things when things are either breaking, right? But when you think of implementing or installing, right, new automation systems or processes, you need these technicians, right? So, when it comes to those, type of skill sets, definitely those are the, when you hear industrial automation, those are the jobs you're going to hear most of. But if you're in a role today, right, doing some of those skills, the likelihood for you to be into industrial automation is very high.
Yeah, I think those are some great points. I think especially the technicians and the value that they can add in this space is huge. Could you explain the potential career path journey for someone either wanting to get into industrial automation or for those who are maybe already in it? How do they determine what's next? How can they continue to grow their career in industrial automation?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one, I love these questions because these are the conversations myself, my recruiters, our team, we're having with Talent Daily. So I'm going to really break it down in like 6 categories. One, starting with your education and maybe some hands-on training at the early stages, right? So you might want to pursue a relevant degree or a certification, within the electrical, mechanical, robotics, or even computer science. Try to get some opportunity, whether it's internships, hands-on training programs, workshops, courses, try to dabble even within your own programming, right? That's the beauty of engineers, is tinkering, right? And system integrations. Two, now it's time to actually, get involved in maybe your first role, so again, I talked about the technician. That's a great entry point into industrial automation because, one, you get your hands on the product, you figure out what works, what doesn't, but also you're working with the engineers. You're starting to understand what they do and that partnership, but even maybe a coordinator, a junior programmer, like I mentioned, tinker, where you'll gain practice experience with automation equipment and software and systems. Three, then it's kind of leveling up, and you'll hear this continuous improvement as I go through this event, because it's really important, especially in automation, because it's ever evolving. So three, it's gaining more hands-on experience. So think about working on different projects, getting more industry focused, right? So maybe you want to be more focused and get more integrated with the pharmaceutical side of automation versus maybe the heavy industrial, whatever the case may be, right? But being able to be more robust in that skill set, and taking advantage of opportunities to learn new technologies and tools that are commonly used. Four, time to upgrade, specialize, and an advancement. As you gain more experience along the way, find things that interest you the most, and again, continue to focus on that craft and being a SME out of it, right? People love what they do, especially engineers, but when you want to really make an impact, it's having a good focus versus maybe more of a broad stroke. So you might want to be more focused in maybe the machine learning aspect of automation, right? But also, again, take on some more complex, stretch yourself, whether it's a stretch assignment, a leadership role, a project management opportunity. You want to get into the design phases of it, the commissioning phases, right? It's always easy to stay in your comfort zone. Where you gain the most experience is when you start outreaching and doing something a little, and the last two, refining your craft, right? Continuous learning, continuous professional development, stay updated with the latest technologies, follow news articles or specific customers that are leading the way, workshops, additional conferences, certifications. Again, engineers love talking about the work that they do, right? They also love helping other engineers be successful as well. So seek mentorships, network opportunities within the industry. And then lastly, this now is developed into, now you're a SME, now you're a leader potentially, and now you can be looking into senior positions, that have more of a strategic impact versus a singular project phase, whatever the case may be. So this is where you can start maybe becoming even a controls consultant, right, or a manager of automation projects and things like that. But this path is flexible, and individuals might find unique opportunities along the way that might shape their career differently, right? But the key to advancement in the field of industrial automation is the commitment to continuous learning and adapting to technological advancements.
Absolutely. I think that's so insightful. I mean, it really seems like an industry where there's so much room to grow and you can really choose your own path, which I think is great. And with that being said, I know that when a lot of people are starting in automation, they face a big decision. Do they go in-house or do they go an integrator path? Can you briefly explain the difference between these two career paths and kind of what that looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one, they're all good paths, right? The option to have options is always good, right?
Yeah.
And the reality is you're going to gain different experience in both, right? So let me start with just kind of quickly defining the differences. So in-house roles, specifically industrial and automation, and even the control side, typically involve directly working for a manufacturing and production facility. You'd be more responsible for maintaining and troubleshooting and optimizing their own automation systems or proprietary systems. Whereas the integrator side of things, right, they're more of like the consultant side. They're working for a company that designs, builds solutions, and implements automation solutions for clients across different industries, different geographies. So in a nutshell, in-house offers a deeper knowledge of maybe a specific system, while integrator roles definitely offer more of a variety, but usually comes with maybe some travel opportunities and exposure to diverse technologies. And when it comes to the talent side of things, and it's like, okay, well, I just want to do some contract work or project work. Am I going to get that out of in-house, or am I going to get it out of an integrator? The reality is you can probably get it out of both, but there definitely is differences. So again, with an in-house team, because you're so focused on the main company's stakeholding, right? They might be limited by the staff, be unavailable to scale with certain sizes of certain automation projects without sacrificing their everyday job, right? So this is where you might see a typical full-time and perm workforce, whereas the integrators, right, their job is to scale their resources from project to project, right? And they have tight deadlines. So they can allocate a dedicated team that focus solely on the project from start to finish, right? Ensuring it's completed and efficiently on time. And this is where you'll tend to see more project-based contract work. This is where you see better pay rates potentially, right? Overtime, project to project, gaining valuable experience along the way. At Kelly Engineering, we have a deep understanding of both, and have options for both our talent and our clients.
I think that's a great example of why to partner with a team like yours, Mark, at Kelly Engineering. I mean, just the depth of knowledge and the being able to kind of steer you in one direction or the other, because it really does seem like there's something for everyone, which is great.
Absolutely.
Okay, last but not least, any words of advice for someone who's just starting out in industrial automation? What would you tell them?
So, like I mentioned, stay curious, keep learning, keep tinkering, right? Don't be afraid to ask questions. I think one thing we love about engineers is they ask why 5 times until they can really figure out what value that they can bring to either the product or the solution. So continue to do that. Like I mentioned, engineers love to mentor other engineers, right? So network with experienced professionals, showcase your skills, right? Through LinkedIn and personal projects. But also make sure you're tailoring your resume, to highlight your relevant skills and experience for each specific role that maybe you're applying to or maybe talking to a recruiter with. At the end of the day, too, persistence and a positive attitude definitely go a long way in this exciting field. But the reality is, automation is here to stay. It's an exciting journey for engineers and professionals. But my number one overall advice is definitely partner with a Kelly Engineering recruiter to understand the job market and options. We'll be able to help tailor your resume, be able to set you up with interview preps and suggestions. And hey, we have this opportunity, whatever the case may be. We want to be your talent consultant. So in fact, we're going to drop a link in the chat where you can schedule a one-on-one consultation with one of our many engineering recruiters that have been in the industry over 10 years. So they know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about to discuss anything from openings, future career planning, but even those on the line that you are looking for automation talent. You can use that same link and we can connect you with one of our many local engineering workforce solution consultants across the country.
Absolutely. And on that note, Mark, I know we have a ton of jobs in industrial automation that we're actively recruiting for right now. I think last time I checked, it was over 100. And I think we've got a link for that as well if anyone would like to apply directly. But please sign up for a one-on-one and just meet with a Kelly Engineering recruiter, and they can kind of just chat with you about your career and where you'd like to take it and what could be next for you. So thank you so much, Mark, for these insights. We've covered a ton in a really short amount of time. So now we've kind of reached the live Q&A portion. So if you have any questions that you want to ask Mark while we're here, please go ahead and type them in the chat window. And in the meantime, we had some pre-submitted questions that I will go ahead and jump into while we wait for some questions to come through. All right. So I think a big question, especially coming off of all of the locations where we discussed where industrial automation was really booming. What about relocation programs? Are there assistance programs offered by employers for industrial automation?
Yes, absolutely. Especially, in locations where maybe they're first starting, or they're turning a facility into an automation facility, right? And they might not be maybe in the hottest market, right? They're going to be more, adverse to make sure like, okay, what do we need to do to bring talent in, right? So obviously, yes, there is relocation programs and assistance offered by employers because they need the talent, they need it quick, and so yeah, absolutely. Every customer is different, every package is different, right? But yes, absolutely. There's a lot of options, and even for the contractors too. When it comes to contractors, what's nice about contracting, you might not be totally just on one company for as long as you'd like, but with contract, there's per diem benefits that come with it. So maybe you don't have to fully reload, but maybe it's an opportunity where you can be on a per diem basis, right? And maybe take on the scale of a certain project through a certain timeline.
Yeah, I think that's great. We have a great question from Chad. He said, "What companies, industries, or areas are investing in these fields? As a CNC programmer and toolmaker, I have long been on the edges of automation, and in practice, entrance is often barred by education. So, where is the incentive strongest in the industry?"
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good question. I think if you going back to my earlier standpoint, I mean, when you look at the automotive sector, the manufacturing sector, and even, supply chain logistics, right? That's where my suggestion would be is to focus, those specific areas, and like I mentioned, Michigan, even the central parts of the US, even within Florida and Connecticut as well, there's automation everywhere. But for a CNC programmer, right, and tool maker, right, you guys are so hands-on.
Mhm.
That is so transferable to PLCs and troubleshooting and those things. So, when you're working with a Kelly recruiter, right, we're going to be able to dive into those CNC programming experience and what tool making were you doing? Was it plastic molding? What were you using? What was the machine? What happened if the machine broke, right? We're going to break those things down. So when we do match you up with an opportunity in industrial automation, we're taking those transferable skills and highlighting them, right? So we can set you up for success.
Absolutely. I love that. I think that's a great point. Um, One thing that people have really been talking a lot about when it comes to industrial automation is artificial intelligence. I mean, that's really kind of the topic lately. But how will that affect the future of industrial automation? I know that it's changing, everything rapidly as we go, but I'm sure it's going to make a huge impact.
Yeah. So when I look at industrial automation, they I mean, this industry has been the stepping stone of getting into anything automated. When you talk automation, right? While there might not be some artificial intelligence there today, right? You have machine learning. Machine learning is another aspect of artificial intelligence, right? You have automated systems that can catch things and troubleshoot in the same time, right? Another form almost of artificial intelligence. So the way that I look at artificial intelligence helping automation is to maybe make things more efficient. So for example, there's a lot of documentation sometimes that goes back and forth, especially for integrators that go from project to project or bid to bid, purchase orders, whatever the case may be. Those might be opportunities where AI can make things a lot easier from a transactional standpoint, right? For the automation team. But I don't see AI taking an industrial engineer and using a chatbot for it, right? I think at the end of the day, what makes industrial automation here to stay is there's still a large physical component in what we do, right? So the pieces that might be more back-end office and things like that, those might be the first places that AI might be introduced to just keep things moving, or to keep things that maybe an engineer just is like, hey, I want to continue designing, but I don't want to deal with purchase orders or tickets or whatever, right? That might be something that might help efficiently within the organization.
I think that's a great way to look at it. Okay, on that note, in addition, kind of what do you think are some of the other challenges that the industrial automation industry is facing today?
Yeah, so I think one it's very competitive, because everybody wants this talent, right? There's a lot of opportunities, out in the market, right? And the technology is always evolving, so when you look at some companies, sometimes maybe we've gone too fast, right? And we don't have the technology, so we have to scale on the resources and, potentially the engineers. So I think one of the biggest struggles is we don't know what tomorrow's going to look like. So sometimes we're maybe deploying teams not knowing what we're going to have tomorrow, or we're hiring teams to get a company into full production when it comes to automation. So I think at the end of the day, one of the hardest part is there's so many options. It's a double-edged sword, right? But I think one thing with industrial automation that I think is a challenge is, they are heavily in different markets, right? And so, the competitors out there, the companies that might be smaller, right, are going to maybe have a hard time with larger companies, whether it's compensation packages and things like that. So at the end of the day, for the engineer, you guys know your skills better than anybody, right? And I think at the end of the day, everyone wants your skills, right? So, know what your options are, right? Be more broad, see what's out there, right? Because at the end of the day, you're going to hit something for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, and I think we had another question regarding the in-house versus integrator roles. So if you choose kind of one path, can you switch between the two? Is it better to specialize in one over the other? What does that look like with those?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a lot of experience with this, so again, going back into Michigan and automotive, you might work for, let's just say an example, GM, right? GM might have specific control systems and standards, right, that GM has to follow, right? So if you start in-house, you're going to become an expert on GM, right? Which is great. Now, an integrator might want to work on a project, or they might win a bid, right, to help outsource, whether it's a control system or battery manufacturing for GM, right? So those integrators need to know some GM standards, right? For example. So if you've gained experience in-house, right, the opportunity that you can go to an integrator and become a SME is very likely, right? It's going to set you up as an advantage, right? Whereas an integrator, if you're gaining your experience elsewhere, right, you can definitely go in-house, right? Because the in-house is going to give you more of a focus, right? But yeah, the two environments are definitely transferable. But I would say, you can gain some really hands-on experience and proprietary experience in-house, and then use that as leverage and an advantage if you do go to an integrator, because they're definitely going to, take advantage of that. Absolutely.
I think that's a great way to look at kind of the career and how you can move around and continue growing.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any other questions come through, so I think we'll go ahead, and we're right at about time, so we'll start to wrap it up. But thank you so much, Mark, for sharing your expertise today. And to everyone attending, thank you for joining. This has been really great. We can't wait to continue to share our expertise in different STEM fields. Don't forget to utilize the resources mentioned. Go browse the jobs that we're actively recruiting for and schedule your exclusive one-on-one with a Kelly Engineering team member so that you can, get closer to achieving your goals in industrial automation.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Patrice. Thanks for everyone listening in your busy days. And like I said, industrial automation is here to stay, and we're here to help from the talent side and the client side. So just ask and we will deliver.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, everyone.